We actually aren't looking for a middle ground with capitalism. We're not looking for a lighter, gentler oppression, exploitation, racism. We are seeking revolution.
My name is Liberty. I'm studying psychology at UCLA. I'm 20 years old.
I'm Sean. I'm 24 years old, and I'm in the Socialist Party.
My name's Mimi. 2016, I was the Socialist Party's presidential candidate.
I'm Shay, and I'm with the Socialist Party, and I'm 28.
My name's Jack. I'm 19. I go to community college.
My name's Richard, 19. I go to Cal State Long Beach as a chemistry major with a music minor.
Can I get my socialists on the left and my capitalists on the right? Humans are inherently selfish.
Selfishness is sort of one word for it, but looking out for yourself, your own survival, and your own gain. And of course, that includes the gain of those you love, is one of the main motivators of people.
A really good way that we could figure out human nature is by comparing it to animal nature and stuff like that. And you see, animals doing whatever they can to survive. It's just culture that has changed us. But I believe at its core that yes, humans, just like any other animal, are selfish.
I work with children, and my experience of working with people who haven't been acculturated or have been into this idea that they need to be selfish all the time are generally not. Every organism has to have a sense of getting resources for itself in order to survive, but that's much different than being selfish, I think.
I think even if you spend any time in a social democracy, let's say you go to Norway and you spend time there where the people see the collective good as tied into their own personal well-being. I think we have so many examples like that, societies working collectively toward a greater good.
The thing about the Nordic countries, in my opinion, is, since they're very, very ethnically homogenous, they all have very, very similar culture. It's not an accurate representation of, what humans inherently are, because I believe that culture can mask human nature.
So you think that diversity would work against working in harmony toward a collective good?
In diversity, we have different ideas of what good is.
I think competition brings out the best in people.
Especially when, we're competing for something like, let's try to create this compound that could help, the masses in some kind of health relation form. You have all these research labs trying to figure out what's the most efficient way to figure out this process? What's the most efficient way to do this? I think we need more of that sort of sense of competition, especially in the sciences and whatnot.
We frequently hear about the evils of monopolies. It's because, when you control an entire market, why even bother being better at anything? You've got no competition, you've got nothing to strive for, and no one can choose anything else.
I agree with you both on the examples that you gave, but the thing that I'm kind of struggling with, if we're talking about efficiency, quality, then yeah, I think it brings out the best in people, but then again, it tends to bring about greed.
Y'all do us such a great service. It's a trip to me because, as you're likely aware, that there's this growing support for socialism, an economic system that places people over profit, that you're willing to continue to throw out the same talking points that have failed people so miserably. Again, it's a benefit to us, and I guess we should say thank you.
Nice.
If you care about something, if you're passionate about something, you don't need the threat of someone doing it better than you to do the best that you can do. Ask any creative. Competition leads less to excellence and more towards doing whatever you can to edge past the other person.
Today, everyone has the opportunity for success.
All right, if we're talking about the United States and we're talking about financial success, then yes, I would believe so. If we're talking about the world, it doesn't necessarily have to mean financial well-being or like stability. I think that it really just means how you're happy and how you're okay with yourself, and you make a goal and you pursue your goal, and if you fail or achieve
That's exactly what I was thinking. I find that there are so many resources out there that you can enact on. It's just, there's some people who just don't do anything about it.
My first thought here with this question is, you got to be fucking kidding me. So many people in this country who solely because they exist, they're under threat, whether it's through, the police. They're just trying to survive.
So everyone's very different. Again, everyone has different opportunities to what they can even consider success. In the US, though, there are a lot of opportunities for most people, though, of course, you can't say all, and there are always those who are extremely unfortunate and should be helped.
I'm sure every one of us has sat in a restaurant before or a Starbucks. Those people work their asses off. Any of these low-income jobs are not easy, and they work for pennies. If something goes wrong with their car, they're done. If they have a health problem, they're done.
You're talking about financial success, though. Success is extremely relative and can be defined in many different ways.
In a capitalist society, though, isn't financial success the most important thing?
No.
I've worked in the food industry for a number of years, and I can not say that any one of my companions was ever happy to be doing that.
Yeah, and if they're going to school on top of that, so they're working full-time, and on top of that, they're going to school and they're paying school.
I would consider that successful if you can go to school and you can maintain your GPA and you can also be working a part-time job and somehow affording your school. Yeah, you're doing well in life.
Society should help the underprivileged.
That sort of saying, if you give a man a fish, etc., holds true. And also, who should do the helping and how is very important. Not all acts of service are equally beneficial.
I would agree to that. I myself, I'm sorry to use a personal anecdote here, but I've personally dealt with the fact that, giving someone this much aid, they become lazy. My father is an alcoholic. So since due to an injury in his leg, he gets SSI. And what ends up happening is he receives enough SSI to the point where he's not motivated to do anything else beyond just going home, drinking a beer or something like that. And I think, yes, people should help people, especially if they're underprivileged or they need the resources to push them. But to what end? That's the fine line.
But your personal anecdote only covers the small demographic of the alcoholic. Most of the people
Every example you guys have brought up has been specifically about people who are particularly poor, when most of the country is lower middle class and up. That's
That's not a fact. But that you would focus on this in a city, one, that gives more than half of its budget to the police, in a country that just passed a military bill, a spending bill, that's almost $1 trillion. That money goes to defense contractors.
The government paying for things is not capitalism.
But we're in a capitalist system.
Where the government pays huge amounts of money for the things you're talking. Yeah, I'm not in favor of those things.
How about instead of spending the money on the military, how about putting those back into basic needs? Healthcare, education, housing.
I agree. The government taking our taxpayer dollars and funneling it into, they're paying for things that the military explicitly says that they don't need. That's not, capitalism is about prices and transparency and choices. When the government takes our money and buys it because they decide.
This is actually an example of capitalism working.
That is not, that might be what you call capitalism, but when I come here saying I'm a capitalist, I'm not saying I'm in favor of that.
Profit and ethics are opposing motives.
So I think at its core, to profit, you have to exploit. And again, there is nothing ethical about exploitation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think. I'm really having trouble thinking of a situation where someone could profit off of something without exploitation being in the mix, and I'm running out of ideas.
If you're running a business and you're the one up top, you would obviously walk away with more money if you pay your employees a little bit less.
I think that profit and ethics can be intertwined when seen with the corporate social responsibility module. When they treat their employees better, they give them more benefits, they raise their wages, and in turn it motivates the workers to work harder. And
treating your employees better than shit is not necessarily ethical. Like, raising the quality does not mean that you've raised it to a sufficient standard of treatment. Because if you're paying someone less than a living wage, that is unethical.
all I'm saying is it is to some degree more ethical and can be seen as more ethical to be beating competition by raising the wages of your employees and giving them better benefits.
Also, one must be paid slightly less than they are making in worth for a company for it to be worth it to hire them at all.
If you can't pay your employee the minimum amount of money that they need in order to live, you have no business being in business. And I think also there's a tendency from the conservative side to skew away from sort of objective fact. I mentioned the MIT living wage calculator, right?
Yes.
That's a scientific model.
Wow.
That 29.25. So as a company, if you can't afford to pay your employee a living wage, that's just the minimum that they need in order to live, right? Get the fuck out of business.
Why are we even talking to you when you have all the facts and we don't know anything?
I don't know.
It's hardly worth my time.
Well, we would, sure.
It's hard to really lean towards one side or the other if everyone is just sort of stating all these coherent biases and not accepting any sort of thing from any other particular side, which is why I'm sort of just, I'm trying to understand your side, and I'm trying to grasp really my side of it. And again, going back to sort of that mutual understanding of what can we do next? That sort of mutual understanding needs to be there if we're going to ever continue to see what's best for the U.S.
I think one reason why you often see like folks on the left, the socialists, communists, anarchists, et cetera, they're so passionate, and there is anger. Seeing the suffering and the oppression and the exploitation, the racism, et cetera, you sort of feel this urgency. Like we're constantly under sort of this self-criticism and self-reflection about like, well, how do you package what can be complex ideas into ways that are very palatable? And I
That's
think
me every hour.
And I think like if there's a failure on the left, that would be one of them.
I wish that rather than having an agenda that we try to prove and we see ourselves as winning by convincing the opponent, I wish that we could consider winning as finding the middle ground and finding where we're similar and finding the truth. I think if you're in the pursuit of truth, then you've won, contrary to convincing other people that you're right.
Despite that we definitely disagree on pretty much everything, it's good to know the real common ground here is we as like millennials and Gen Z and stuff, we're actually like talking about this, like whether we were able to convince the other side of anything or not, at least we give a shit about it. This is stuff that we need to talk about. This is stuff that we need to be aware of.
Amen.
Especially given our leaders. So yeah.
All right, guys, that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you very
argument.
much. Pleasure, really.
Thank you.
You're cool people.
Thank you.
Talking.
It's good talking to you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching that episode of Middle Ground. Here at Jubilee, we believe in this idea of radical empathy, and that is what Middle Ground is all about. So we want to hear your thoughts on this topic and this discussion, so let us know in the comments below. Please click here to subscribe and watch more of our videos, and remember to live greater.